Hey, what's going on, guys? We have another Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire Wi-Fi battle. Today I'm bringing back the old and classic RU team that I featured in my last battle because, well, they did so well. And today we are fighting against Tony. Tony, if you guys take a look at his team, it's pretty darn frightening, but not to mention, he has a Pidgeot. So I'm pretty sure it's a Mega Pidgeot. This is gonna be my very first time fighting against a Mega Pidgeot, so I'm very excited. Surprisingly, Pidgeot, I believe, is an RU tier, which that's really hard to believe, because honestly, Pidgeot has gotten a massive boost in speed and special attack. And that no guard ability, that no guard complements Hurricane so well. Hurricane never misses thanks to Pidgeot's no guard, so. My opponent's gonna lead up with a Rotom. I knew that, because I don't really have, you know, anything for this Rotom. Even my grass type Whimsicott is not carrying a grass attack, so expecting him to go for a Volt Switch or Will-O-Wisp, I decided to go for a substitute. Turns out he has Thunder Wave. That's pretty sweet, but luckily I did go for that substitute. Going for a substitute was the best bet. Now I'm pretty sure he's gonna go for a Volt Switch now, but I am not gonna let him go for Volt Switch. No, I'm gonna trap him into Encore. So he is trapped into Thunder Wave, and obviously Thunder Wave can't do anything to substitute. This, my friend, is how you use Whimsicott. Whimsicott is terribly annoying, and I have to apologize to my viewers. If you guys are expecting, like, you know, a heavy hitter team, no, this Whimsicott is not a heavy hitter, but it still works very well. Here comes a Growlithe now. I went for a Leaf Seed, even if the Growlithe does come out, but turns out, of course, right, of course, I miss my Leaf Seed. I don't know what's up with me and Leaf Seeds, we just don't get along. He's actually gonna go for the extreme speed. It is gonna outspeed my Prankster. Not that it really matters, honestly. Turns out he has Life Orb, but I decided to go for a Leaf Seed regardless. And he is getting sapped, so it's pretty darn sweet. He's losing HP to, you know, the Life Orb and Leaf Seed. I'm gonna actually stay in. I'm actually gonna stay in, and I'm just gonna Encore him so that he can go for an extreme speed instead of, you know, like a Flare Blitz or something. That's exactly what I do. He is trapped into Encore now. Life Orb on, you know, extreme speed coming from Arcanine still does kind of, you know, a ridiculously good amount, but, you know, I take it not too well, but, you know, I still take it. I am carrying leftovers. I mean, last time I think I was using Whimsicott, I was carrying like an EVO Light by accident, but luckily for me, I am carrying the leftovers, and with Leech Seed, you know, I restore quite a good amount. He's gonna withdraw. Fine by me. And here, I believe I went for a switch. That's right. I wanted to go into Doublade, expecting, you know, an extreme speed. But turns out he went into the Skarmory. I could have actually stayed in, you know, and just go for an attack, but then I just thought, let's just go back into Whimsicott, because I know for a fact my opponent's gonna go for Stealth Rocks, so that I can just trap him into Stealth Rocks. However, going for another Encore is just a little too obvious, so I knew my opponent is going to switch out to negate that Encore. And here comes the Arcanine once again. I believe like my opponent's team isn't like entirely shiny, which is, you know, pretty cool. So instead of going for the Encore, I just went for a substitute, because yeah, I already knew that he was going to switch out. That gives me another turn go for a Leaf Seed. I am safely behind a sub, so I have nothing to fear. I can just go ahead and land my Leaf Seed. And that is exactly what I do, and luckily I do land it. So this Arcanine is already below half HP, and I haven't even really done anything. Like, all I did was just set up a few substitute and just land some Leaf Seeds, and this Arcanine is already below half, so that's pretty darn sweet. Not to mention, my opponent has Life Orb, and I'm pretty sure this Arcanine doesn't have Morning Sun. Usually offensive Arcanines don't really have Morning Sun, so I went for the substitute, expecting that he might go for, you know, a switch or even extreme speed. He actually stays in. I'm really surprised, because, you know, I could just possibly just like stall him out. You know, with that Leaf Seed and Life Orb damage, this Arcanine is pretty much gone for good if he doesn't switch out anytime soon. So with another sap of Leaf Seed, this will be the last time Arcanine decides to fight, if he decides to stay in. And actually, he is staying in. My substitute outspeeds his attack, so he does go for the Flare Blitz instead of extreme speed. which is fine and all, you know, because it'll break my sub so that, you know, whatever he sends out next can, you know, potentially harm me. He does have that Pidgeot. That Pidgeot is pretty darn scary. I'm pretty sure the Skarmory also knows Brave Bird too. Most Skarmorys know Brave Bird, and you know, both of those, Skarmory and Pidgeot, is just not too good. So Whimsicott is actually quite weak to my opponent's team, but you know, surprisingly, Whimsicott is still doing pretty darn well because, well, it's Whimsicott. Now I went for the substitute, but he does go for a Whirlwind, so I guess, you know, it's not too surprising, but whatever. Here comes my Emboar. It's not too bad of a switch actually, but you know, I am fearing that Brave Bird. And I know for a fact that one Flare Blitz cannot kill Skarmory, unless I was Choice Banded, but in this case I am Choice Scarf, so I'm gonna have to switch out, you know, go into Claydol. Obviously, Claydol, you know, Brave Bird only does neutral Claydol. Like, I could have switched into my Doublade, but that's not the point. I just wanted to spin away his rocks and set up my rocks. So we know this Skarmory has Whirlwind, Stealth Rocks, and Brave Bird. So I'm not sure what his fourth move is. I'm pretty sure it's not Defog, it's probably Roost. So we know that he doesn't have a, you know, Defog on this Skarmory. I'm free to just go for my Stealth Rocks. Instead of going for a Rapid Spin, I actually just want to set up my rocks. I think that's a little bit more advantageous for me to just go for Stealth Rocks instead of Rapid Spin, because if I just Rapid Spin, this Skarmory will still be in this field and he can still go for Stealth Rocks. So out comes my Emboar again. I really want to use Flare Blitz, you know, just to kind of hope that he might over-predict and just go for a Whirlwind, but I really didn't want to play any games. Like, just judging by how my opponent plays, I'm pretty sure he's not over-predicting anything, and he's, yep, and he does go for a Brave Bird. Like I mentioned, Doublade can take it very well, but actually my Seadra takes it pretty darn well too, because this is an Eviolite defensive Seadra. Eviolite defensive Seadra actually works so damn well. And not to mention, a Scald will actually probably do more to the Skarmory than my Doublade. So I went for a Scald. It does an alright amount, but I really just wanted to land that fucking burn. I'm pretty sure Skarmory has the Roost, but I didn't care. I really wanted to burn him, but yeah, I'm not getting burned anytime soon. So actually, it turns in my favor. He rolls out Claydol, so that actually is not too bad, because I can just go for a Rapid Spin now, after I already set up my rocks. Yes, I know the Skarmory is still out here, and yes, he can just go for Stealth Rocks, but whatever. So finally he has Roost. Kind of early to go for Roost, but I can probably see why, because he probably thought I have Ice Beam, and you know, I do have Ice Beam, but no, I'm not using Ice Beam. I have way better things to do. Skarmory is so problematic. It's such a good OU Pokemon, but you know, I can still probably find my ways around it, so I'm gonna switch out now. Expecting like a Whirlwind or even a Brave Bird, whatever, I didn't really care. I'm just gonna go into, actually no, I'm expecting the Stealth Rocks. That's why I brought in my Whimsicott. Now my opponent should see this, like miles away, miles away, that I'm gonna go for an Encore. Or I could go for a Substitute, because, you know, I could over-predict, but I didn't want to play any games. His Brave Bird can probably finish me off. And not to mention, he can probably just go for a Whirlwind to, you know, whirl away my Substitute, so yeah, good thing I went for the Encore, and now he is trapped, and I can freely go for Leech Seed, or I can be behind the sub. Here comes the Rotom now. We already know this Rotom can't really do much to me, so I went for a Substitute. I am freely behind the Substitute while this Rotom is out. Now I know for a fact he's gonna go for a Volt Switch. If I go for a Leech Seed, he's just gonna Volt Switch, and I don't really get any Leech Seed restoration, so I know he's gonna go for a Volt Switch. So instead of using Leech Seed, I just went for Moonblast. He doesn't take out my sub too, that's really great. So I'm still behind the sub, and I'm gonna dish out at Moonblast. And to my favor, my opponent actually sends out Malamar. As you know, Malamar is Dark type. Well, it's also Psychic type, but more importantly, it's Dark type, and it's gonna not appreciate this Moonblast. I am uninvested in special attack, but that did way too much. He's sitting at dangerously low HP, and I have rocks. I'm pretty sure he's not gonna switch out, so instead I just went for an attack. Surprisingly, he outspeeds me, so yeah, I mean, Malamar is kind of fast, I guess. I don't really have speed investments, but still, I didn't think Malamar would outspeed me. Regardless, I take him out. He did get rid of my Substitute, but hey, that's two Pokemon. that Whimsicott just took care of. Arcanine and Malamar. That's pretty darn sweet, Whimsicott. However, I am kind of sitting at dangerously low HP. Here comes the Skarmory now. He could go for a Whirlwind, but there's no point for me to switch out if he's just going to go for a Whirlwind because, you know, I'm just going to get hit by rocks, damage, and all that. So, actually, sorry, I do switch out. Yeah, I do switch out, and he does go for the Whirlwind. But, you know, I went for my Doublade because it's a Steel type, he doesn't get hit by rocks too much. Here comes the Emboar now, and, you know, I'm just like, okay, I'm pretty sure he's not gonna go for Brave Bird. I'm pretty sure what my opponent is gonna do is just keep using Whirlwind until, like, you know, my whole team is getting hit by rocks. So, instead, I went for a Fair Blitz. It's not gonna kill, but it's gonna do quite a good amount, but, I'm just hoping that he goes for the Whirlwind. But, turns out, he does go for Brave Bird. So, unfortunately, Emboar will obviously die. Which kinda sucks because my opponent still has an Umbreon chill in the back, which this Emboar can take very nicely. But now, this Skarmory is sitting at dangerously low HP, not to mention I have rocks up. So, I'm gonna go with Seadra. I know for a fact Seadra can outspeed it, even if it's a defensive Seadra. And I just hit him with that Scald. If he wanted to switch out, that's great. I mean, that's great. You know, this Skarmory will just, you know, get hurt by rocks next time, and something will just get burned, but yeah. Here comes the Rotom now, and now I don't have any Rotom counter. My only ground type that can absorb this Volt Switch is, well, Claydol, and I don't really want Claydol to eat up a Hydro Pump, so I kinda have no choice. I really thought he's gonna go for a Volt Switch, so I just decided to go for a Rest. You know, according to Damage Calculator, I can take one Volt Switch coming from this Rotom. Unless this Rotom is, like, specially offensive. And, as a matter of fact, this Rotom Wash is specially offensive. Which was very surprising. You don't really see a specially offensive Rotom as much these days. I thought I was, like, only the one carrying offensive Rotom, but whatever, at least he loses switch priority, and I actually get switch priority, so he goes into Umbreon now. I could go into my Doublade and just go for a Sacred Sword, you know, whatever he wants to switch out, I can just dish out a Sacred Sword and it'll do neutral. Or I can just bring in my Whimsicott. I thought it's a great opportunity for me to bring in my Whimsicott. I have just barely enough HP to go for a substitute. Usually, as a matter of fact, this Umbreon goes for Foul Play. That's usually what they carry, or they carry Toxic. Either way, substitute can pretty much, you know, wall both attacks. And what's even better about Umbreon is that Umbreon has massive HP. So I can just freely go for a Leaf Seed. And it's gonna do absorb quite a lot, but of course I missed my Leaf Seed yet the second time. I'm not having the best luck. I'm not really sure why. But that's okay, luck does not determine the battle. Like, you know, 100%. He does have leftovers too, so I'm pretty sure this is also a toxic, you know, wish stalling Umbreon. And it's probably like specially defensive, so my Moonblast probably won't do too much. But honestly, I really don't want to use Moonblast, I just want to land my Leaf Seed so I can restore, because I'm sitting at dangerously low HP. If I switch out, rocks can surely kill me, so. My opponent goes for the third Foul Play, and it does take 3 Foul Plays to get rid of my substitute. But luckily, this Leech Seed and my leftovers will heal me so much. Look at this. Look at that. Holy shit, that Leech Seed literally healed me like, I don't know, like a quarter health. Thanks to Umbreon, I'm able to put up another substitute. My opponent should really have noticed that by now and just do a quick switch, honestly. Do a quick switch. I understand that, you know, nothing in this team wants to take a Leech Seed, but he needs to switch out. And I know he's going to switch out now. After seeing that I just pulled up another substitute, he needs to land 2 more Foul Plays. So, my opponent is going to switch out, and I know that, so I went for a Leech Seed. Whatever he's going to send out, it's going to get Leech Seeded. And turns out he's going to go into Rotom, which is another fine candidate to get Leech Seeded, because Rotom packs, you know, a decent amount of HP too. And I absorb it like a boss. I really love Prankster, like just Pokemon with Prankster, like Murkrow. Even though my Murkrow in my previous battle was pretty unlucky and it didn't do too well. So thanks to this Rotom, I am now above half, and I know for a fact he's gonna go for another Volt Switch. So instead of going for a Leaf Seed, I just went for an attack. Unfortunately, my substitute fade, thanks to this Rotom's Volt Switch, and thanks to that Umbreon's Foul Play. Finally, the Pidgeot arrives. I was just dreading this Pidgeot to come, but at least it gets hit by Stealth Rocks and Moonblast, so that's pretty darn sweet. Takes them, you know, pretty low, but yeah. Now, some Pidgeots might have Roost or Defog, so I actually stayed in. No, I didn't go for an attack or Leaf Seed. No, I went for the safer substitute. Mega Pidgeot looks pretty damn badass. It has like a fucking like Superman coil. Here comes my substitute, hoping that he might go for Roost or Defog. That'll be great because I would just like Encore him and trap him. But instead, my opponent knows better than that, and he goes for the Hurricane. Kinda fucking scary. Doublade will take the Hurricane pretty well, but you know, most Pidgeots also carry Heat Wave, and Doublade will not appreciate Heat Wave. And not to mention, my Doublade, you know, I just had a Doublade sweep, so I didn't really want to use my Doublade in this battle. Here comes the Hurricane now. I know I can take one, but it's gonna be quite a challenge if I can take two, and from that range, I cannot take two. I cannot. So, unfortunately, Oracle does have to go down. I didn't get to spin away my rocks, but, you know, I guess it's okay. I'd rather have Claydol die than, you know, anything else. But, I'm gonna send out my Ambipom, the clutch. Ambipom can be a great late game sweeper. You just fake out, you know, pretty much anything that's almost dead, like this Pidgeot, and this Rotom. Gonna get hit by rocks, and it's sitting at a very comfortable range where I can just one-shot it with a last resort. Ambipom, the late game sweeper. And I believe my opponent has last Pokemon left, the Umbreon, while I still have 3 Pokemon, the Ambipom, the Whimsicott, and the Doublade. I could have switched out into Doublade and just, you know, start using Sacred Swords, or I can even go to Whimsicott and just, you know, Encore him and shit. He actually went for Protect, so I could have just like Encored him and Protect, but then I thought I can easily 2-hit KO this Umbreon, and I know I can take one Foul Play. I know for a fact I can take one Foul Play, so. And I also know my opponent is just going to go for another Protect, just to stall out this game. I mean, that's all good though. Not hating. I, you know, have to admire his resilience. And, but unfortunately, he is not going to get that double protect. Or, I guess he doesn't even bother trying to get that double protect. And I just finish off this Umbreon. So, Ambipom cleaning house. So, thank you, Tony. That was an amazing battle. Lovely Mega Pidgeot. First time ever fighting it. It was really freaking sweet. If you guys like this RU team pit against Tony's team, please let me know by liking this video. Make sure to comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.